Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to be doing a destination deep dive for our low altitude trip to Nepal. My name is Amanda. I am a destination expert here at AdventureWomen, and I am delighted to be joined today by one of our fabulous ambassadors, Margie. Margie, if you want to give us a little introduction to your own background here.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Amanda. My name is Margie Nash. I currently live in Southern Oregon right now, and I've been working with Adventure Women since about 2019. I went on the low-level Nepal trip just a couple years ago, and was thrilled and can't shut up about it. So Amanda's like, "Come on in."
No, it's true. You were so enthusiastic about it. So I'm delighted that you're here to share that experience and some more some more insights on the actual trip itself. So let's dive in a little bit. I'll give you sort of a broad overview for this trip. This is what we call a level 4 high energy trip. And the main reason for that for this one is that you're going to be spending the first 7 days, the first week, with back-to-back hiking days in the beautiful Himalayas. So it is definitely a hiker's trip for the beginning part. The second part of the trip is much more cultural and more relaxed. So it's a nice balance. This isn't, a level 5 trip. This isn't Everest. It's definitely much more achievable than that if you are ready to challenge yourself a little bit and take on some of this back-to-back hiking. So just to give you an overview, this is in Nepal. You'll be flying in and out of Kathmandu, and then you can see you'll be taking a domestic flight to start the trekking and then journey down towards the Chitwan National Park before returning to Kathmandu. And so I wanted to go through the hiking statistics first. So I'll give you kind of the broad overview, and then I'll let Margie talk about the actual experience and what these numbers really translate to when you're on the ground, because it can look a little intimidating. But I think when you really break it down, if you like to hike, if you are willing to challenge yourself a little bit, I think this is such a great trip to be able to do that and to see an absolutely stunning, breathtakingly beautiful part of the world. So each of these bullet points is a different day. So you can see, some of these are a little bit longer. Day 2 is going to be pretty challenging on that hike. Day 2 of hiking. But some of these other ones are 2-3 miles. They are much more achievable, especially if you like to hike already. And some of these elevation gains are not too dramatic. Those of us in the AdventureWomen office, we are based in the Boston area, so we don't really have lots of altitude around here or, big elevation gains. And even training around here, that's something that is very achievable. So one thing we want to point out, and I think, Margie can speak to this more in detail, but for these hikes, you're going to be taking a lot of steps and a lot of stairs. So, Margie, you mentioned to me earlier when we were chatting about this that there's Nepali flat, which is sort of a different way of explaining terrain. So, do you want to go ahead and kind of dive into what that actually means and what this trip is? So, what makes it so special?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to, you're looking at these 3 slides. These are kind of my most favorite um, parts of this trip, and one definitely that the Annapurna Range. And as you're trekking through those first several days, this range is all around you, and there's opportunity to stop and kind of take in that majesty of this mountain range, of the colors on it, and just kind of revel in the glory of being there and having this kind of surround you in this immense landscape. It's one of the most spectacular landscapes I've ever seen, and I'm just can't get enough of that. The second that I loved was just that first portion, was the trekking portion. Every day, kind of back to back, moving through that landscape at a pace where there's the moments to stop and look around, to speak to other travelers on the trail, to talk with the fellow guests about what you're looking at, to see those villages that you pass by. It was the pace, and also moving through that terrain on foot was just a very unique and special way to experience that Nepal. And lastly, for me, it was in Chitwan National Park. I had the opportunity. The rhinos were out, and I was blessed to see these magnificent animals, and to learn that Chitwan has been instrumental in bringing these animals back from near extinction. So those are my three favorite components of the Nepal low altitude. So
I love that.
and wanted to address some of the hiking. A lot of questions about this. I wanted to explain a little bit more about the steps that are involved. So being in Nepal, in a country where that human experience runs so deep over such a long period of time, just human existence in that area. If you can imagine, it's very steep terrain. And over time, what may have been game trails or footpaths, they're like, we need to start putting in some steps, so it's not it's a lot more comfortable to travel in. So they just grabbed stones and created these steps, and you can see all through here, unlike steps that are often in buildings that we're used to, there's a very set rise over the depths, the run, rise to run. Here, it's very different. And I like that because you get a step that may stretch your legs a bit, and then another step where you can, your step is shorter, so you get this rest in there. Or you take the left-hand side, because my legs aren't that long. So I'm looking for where is that shortest, the easiest point to step. There are lots and lots of resting places on all of these hikes, and one of the things that I liked about getting back to walking here, trekking here, is that there's an ability to meet individuals, other travelers. And on my right, a picture of the young girls. This was a class that was on a field trip, and these school kids were coming by, and they wanted to practice English with us, and then everybody started piecing to us like, I don't know, you're Americans. So of course we did that back, and they say hi and chat a little bit, and it was just a really, really fun way to meet others there, other travelers, Nepalese or from other countries. And it's in a beautiful landscape, so it's a very lush, very green, as you can see from these photos, and you're passing farms, and getting that perspective of just, we're passing people when they're harvesting their rice or bringing in their crops.
Just daily life.
Yeah. So this was so I'm hoping these photos will give you some indication of what those steps looks like. It's a lot of steps, especially on a couple of those days, but never without an opportunity to take them at your pace, to rest when you need to rest. And I just encourage people to not get too nervous about this piece, because it can be done.
Yeah.
And the rewards are so worth it.
Absolutely.
And the other piece is a lot back to the trekking component is, yes, there's steps in there, but there's so much more to this landscape. As you can see in the river, you've got these opportunities to cross these rivers, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a suspension bridge, and it's just And then the middle picture, there's areas of flatness where you're just walking along. Um, and I'll address the last picture with the two guests there. But first, the middle picture, the gentleman behind the guest in front has the red shirt on. That's a porter. So when you're hiking, you're just carrying your day packs, like the two guests in your right hand picture. That has your change of clothes, your water, your snacks. The porters are carrying your duffel bags, and they're never without reach. A porter will have the bags for two guests, but they always are traveling with you. The guides, the head guide and the assistant guide are always there. Your fellow guests are there. So you're never without helping hands, ever, 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 ever along. And then, of course, you'll be with your ambassador. So you're not alone. All these guests might have had some trepidation about the steps. Every single person on my trip got through every single one of these days. A couple days there was tired at the end and glad for that big hearty meal at the end. What I want to say about the two guests in this last picture is they're very good friends. They're from the Tahoe region, do a lot of hiking together. This was the morning we needed to say goodbye to our second lodge, and the two of them, you can tell it was just this love for each other, this gratitude of being in this landscape, and sharing that moment with your fellow travelers was such a poignant and touching moment for them. I always come back to this, and I'm like, that's the moment when it's hard to say goodbye after you. Yeah, but the stairs get you there. The stairs will get you there.
And I think that's such an important point, that you're not alone, whether it's the porters or the guides or the ambassador or just each other. Exactly what you're saying. This is about the support system that you're going to have doing this. So if you think you might want to challenge yourself a little bit, you're not alone in that. Someone's going to be there to support you, with words and actions. So I think that's a lovely point, Margie.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to see if you could share a little bit more. I know you just mentioned the lodge, but there's some camping as well. Can you kind of talk through some of the accommodations and that experience?
Yeah. So what you're looking at are the on the Seti River, when you take that amazing, wonderful raft trip down, and that you're stopping by this beautiful, beautiful camp area, and the guest tents are that really heavy canvas but sealed, right? Many of them have the bathrooms. You can see the two doors in at the end of the room there. They're very, very comfortable. I slept like a baby, and the wonderful part is hot water bottles are brought to you at night, so you can slip it in there and get your toes warm, and you feel like a baby sleeping soundly. They're just phenomenal. And then the permanent structure, wooden lodges where you'll eat your meals, and some of the other outbuildings are just further up a footpath. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's definitely comfortable camping.
Yeah, yes.
And I know you mentioned the rafting. Is this what you were talking about?
Oh, and I love water and I love rafting. So this day was a highlight for me. And you can tell we're still in these mountain ranges that are just out of this world, and the color of the water is this beautiful color. They have all the gear ready for you. You drive up, that you get suited up with your vest and your helmet and your paddle, and you have some instructions, and then you several hours down this travel down this river, and it's so exciting and it's so lovely, and it's just such a different way from walking. All of a sudden you're on the water moving through that. It's a very gentle float. I'm used to rafting and kayaking through some rapids. This is not that river. This river could easily, you know, if you've never been on a raft before, you'll be fine. The rapids that they do have are at a level 1 and 2, so they're rifflies enough for, you know, yay, because it's exciting going through them regardless. And the crews are just exceptional to help you out and give you point, and you see so much wildlife along the way. There were several of us, including myself, who love birds, and we brought our binoculars, thank goodness. And there were just so many birds at along the trek, along this river, and then in Chitwan as well. That just some very beautiful birds. Yeah, so that rafting is just a really fun way to travel.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just mention, because you brought up the binoculars, you know, for anyone who hasn't traveled with us before and is thinking about this, you'll have a dedicated trip manager from AdventureWomen who will supply a very detailed packing list. And that's something that we have honed over the years of running this trip and so many others. So binoculars, I'm sure, are on the list based off of Margie and other guest recommendations. You'll also get a detailed preparation guide that will have everything from training tips, you know, for the hiking, to the sort of logistics of the travel to Nepal once you arrive, all of those sort of details. So you'll be very well cared for from the time that you book until the porters are carrying your things on the trail, and then by the time you get home. So you're never alone in having to sort through all these things. Definitely pack the binoculars. So one of the other highlights that you mentioned, Margie, I know, was the wildlife. I know, we do have a couple of photos next, but before we get to the actual animals, can you kind of walk us through the experience of the national park itself?
Yes, we were in vehicles similar to what you see, you know, if you've been on a safari, you kind of get a better mental image of how you travel there. So and with a naturalist and a driver, and it's very comfortable. Seats are elevated, so you're seeing everything above the sides, in front of you and back of you. It's open, just to be able to have that view of being in that park, and it's there for a reason, to preserve and protect the animals and that are there. And it's just it's a treat, it's a treasure. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those animals. I know you were so excited about the
Well,
rhino.
I was hoping that I would see the black rhino, and indeed we did. They're just magnificent animals with it's the one-horned rhinoceros, single black horn, and it has these folds in the skin that make it look like armor. You can see from that picture, they're just, and one of these animals was lying down in kind of some large, taller grass, and we didn't even see it. And all of a sudden it stood up, and we're like, what? How could this huge, immense creature be in an
Hidden in
area
there.
that we didn't even see it? Yeah, it was crazy.
That's amazing. And, you know, you and I were talking about this previously. Anytime we're talking about wildlife viewing, it's wildlife. We can't predict, you know, when and where we're going to see things. So that's a great example of that rhino you didn't even realize was in the tall grass right there. So patience is always important, and a bit of luck. But
Yeah.
you never know. If you can see the rhinos, that'd be amazing. If you can see other wildlife, a crocodile or two, maybe, but and the birds that you mentioned as well, I'm sure, are plentiful no matter what. So it's always an exciting opportunity to go through a national park, a conservation area, where they are working so hard to protect the wildlife. So hopefully you can enjoy seeing them in their own spaces. So the other component of this trip that I would
Mhm.
love if you could talk about a little bit is, kind of the cultural side of this, because, you talked about seeing people on the trails, taking in harvest and crops and using those stairs, and that's just daily life there. But that's not the only sort of, local interaction or opportunity that you have to kind of get a glimpse there. So what other cultural experiences did you
Yeah,
enjoy?
this was such an exceptional trip in that regard for me. Um, I'm I'm learning and continue to learn about religions around the world, and this trip in particular helped me understand, learn, appreciate, value, and respect um, the immensity of of how religion and all those components fit into the Nepalese daily life. It's deeply moving, and and this trip offers many opportunities to see special places and enter special buildings, and participate and witness very special rituals, if you will. And it was it's a really important part of Nepal, of the identity of Nepal, is their religious landmarks and areas, and it's amazing. I don't know what else to say other than, yeah.
No, that's fabulous. I
It's one of
always,
those things why we travel, right? We
yeah.
travel in order to do this, and to see, and to connect on so many different levels, and see people living and expressing their cultural heritage, their religious beliefs and values, and so welcoming. It's I part of what another reason why I love this is this area in Nepal. People are so kind, so gracious, so generous with their time, and just in sharing with you. They're interested in travelers. They want to take time with travelers, and um, just an easy country in that regard to travel in. Just amazing people from top to bottom.
That's so lovely. You're making me want to go right now.
I'm telling you, get it on your list.
Oh, it's definitely on my list for sure. So just to kind of wrap things up from here, I just wanted to highlight a couple of departures that we do have for the end of 2026, the end of 2027. Just a few spaces left for 26 if anyone is still looking. But Margie, all of your enthusiasm and excitement for this trip, I've heard it in various conversations over the last couple of months when people have been asking about it, and I so appreciate you sharing your personal experience and your joy for this. Was there anything else that we didn't address that you wanted to maybe bring up?
Yeah, I would I
Yeah,
would like to go back and talk a little bit about the training routine that
yeah.
I developed for myself. Um, I live about the altitude that this trip is, but I didn't take that as a granted that I would be just fine. So instead, I took that as, okay, this is one of those the pieces that will be a little easier for me. The other is, I do hike a lot. I I really challenged myself and made a list. This day one, this is where I'm, the destination. This is the number of miles, because I wanted to make sure that I was in shape. The
Mhm,
other thing that I did a little bit, but wish I had done more, was start to incorporate steps into my training.
mhm,
So if I was doing this again, I would make sure that um, at my gym, they have the Stairmaster. I would hit stairs, and we have some buildings that have several flights of flights of stairs here. Um, Stadiums here
Hmm.
at the university have stairs. Those actual stairs versus I'm just walking up on my normal hike up elevation on a path.
Hmm.
I
It's
don't
different.
consider that the same thing. Exactly. So I would next time actually start incorporating stair training. Um, the other that what I appreciated doing is also in my backpack I started carrying a lot more weight than I generally carry. And I think I was about 15 pounds just putting random stuff in my pack. And water, of course, is always a weight as well. So I would encourage you, if you don't have a training routine, but think this trip may be like right up your alley, to work with staff there at the AW team, write out what you think might be your best strategy. And as the trip gets closer, you're week 3 and definitely moving into week 2, is just step it up and do those twice a day. I did twice a day activities the last several weeks, and that was really beneficial to my enjoyment there, and yeah, those
That's
steps and getting to see the Annapurna Range. So
That's so helpful. I appreciate you sharing your experience with the training too, because you have done a lot of trips, and you are regularly active and doing these challenging things. So I think it's helpful for other people to hear that they can do it too if they similarly are out hiking. Just making some small tweaks to training can make a huge difference. And like you said, reaching out to your trip manager, reaching out to us, we're always happy to share, what other people have done, other guests have done, other ambassadors have experienced. And so it's achievable, no matter how challenging it is
yeah,
achievable.
it
And
is.
like you said, you want to make it enjoyable. So a little bit of extra prep and a little bit of extra training gives you something good to look forward to as well.
And I would just say, if you're thinking about Nepal, if it's on your mind, make those calls out to the AW team to get
Mm.
more information. I'd be more than happy to speak with you individually. I've done that with guests who are thinking about that trip, um, and say yes. It's amazing country.
I know how much you loved it. And I so appreciate you sharing all of this, Margie. Thank you so, so much.
You are welcome.
All right. Until next time.
Okay, see you on the trail out there.